Unturned is presented by UpdateAI.
Oh, they're signing off. They're signing off on here's the value that you are going to deliver to me. You have a covenant with them. That you have delivered with them. Okay.
We have delivered. And that's important. We want to make it real. There's all sorts of, good intents and hopes when you start on a project, but we want to make it real.
Customers have a very difficult time articulating how they're defining value with software providers. Folks don't know how to clearly articulate it. And so then, obviously, if we don't have it articulated, it's hard to deliver on it.
I would want to know the answer to the question of what is the best conversation that I could have with my customer right now? I want to know the answer to that question. And it's a really important question.
So I talked to a lot of CSMs who are like, I just have to get all this information. They don't answer my questions.
Usually I hit the record button on these guys as a surprise attack to jump right into the episode, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Yeah.
That's very trust building right there. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah. No, we just don't trust Josh. Actually, that's what we've learned.
Yeah,
so
you might have reasons. I can only guess.
Wow. Oh, she's good at this. That's the Munich humor, Elisabeth.
That's the Munich humor. It's coming through strongly.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of CS and BS. I'm your host, Josh. I'm your co-host, Josh Schachter, founder and CEO of UpdateAI, here with the marvelous Kristi Faltorusso, CCO of Client Success, and the amazing Jon Johnson, principal CSM at User Testing.
You were going to say Splash again. You were going to get it wrong again. Josh has never gotten where I work correctly.
At Amazon. Don't you work
Maybe
at Amazon?
he's just envisioning you in another organization doing something bigger and better, Jon.
Aren't we all?
He's just he's projecting a future for you.
Aren't we all?
Oh man. Well, I'm really excited
this week, guys.
Yeah. We're good. We're good. I'm excited about this episode because we have somebody really special to talk to. The Chief Customer Officer at Autodesk, Elisabeth Zornes. Elisabeth was also previously the CCO at Zendesk. She's held executive roles at Microsoft. She was at Cisco for way too long and has a really illustrious career. So, Elisabeth, thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure to be with this fantastic group. And when you say illustrious career, this sounds really interesting and exciting. So I wonder what that might be.
What career would be illustrious?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you want to do? What do you want to do when you grow up, Elisabeth? What would be an illustrious career?
Well, that's a long time out. I'm just I love working with customers. That's what I love doing, be it as your junior CSM, as you introduced me, or your chief customer officer. I actually held all of those roles.
Okay, we're going to go right into this. So you love working with customers, which is why as CCO for the past 5 years, how many customers do you work with? Or is your customer the board, the CEO, the upward stakeholder?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question.
Let me twist that. How does a CCO work with customers? Let's twist that.
How does a CCO work with customers? Many different ways, I would say. Let's just take a step back for a second, because CCO is a role that really came to bear, not even 10 years ago, not even 7 years ago. It's relatively new, and a lot of people are still wrapping their mind around what does a CCO do. So here unveiling. A CCO works with customers once they become customers. So part of the scope is really on, helping customers to get started, to get value out of leveraging the software and get good use out of it, to dream and imagine what they might be able to do, and then making that a reality. And then as a little side job, we, of course, want them to stay with us. So that is, the fiduciary responsibility we're all working with to make sure that our customers not only come join us, that we want them to stay with us, to grow with us, and be, happy customers.
Yeah. This is a first on this podcast. So we are talking to somebody so important that her muscle just arrived.
Did her assistant just join us?
Yeah. Can we introduce, we don't we can't have like, visitors behind the curtains here. We need to introduce everybody. So Elisabeth, can you introduce us to your esteemed, this is the BS part of the program. Can you introduce us to your esteemed colleague, Carly?
So this is Carly Clemens, and I'm really hoping she did her hair like
She
I
is
did
beet red
today as well. No, okay, she did not do her hair, but besides that, she's very fabulous. She's my communications director, and she helps me to have good words. How about that?
Carly, I have a question. I need your opinion, Carly. And this is actually the reason that I'm glad you're here. Where do we think Kate Middleton is?
Okay, I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
I have a lot to say about that on a non-recorded line.
Absolutely.
But this is a first for me too. I've never interrupted a recording in my entire career. This is...
I don't think
No,
you
you're
really
great.
interrupted
Oh my
it.
gosh.
I don't
called
think
you
you're
out.
interrupting.
Yeah.
We interrupted ourselves. We're going to get back to
keeps it
Elisabeth,
real.
though.
It keeps it real. So here we
Elisabeth,
are.
we're going to come back to you in 10 minutes. We'll be back in a minute.
I truly do apologize. I will leave very ungracefully and hope that you can get... Gosh, I truly, this is a first for me.
No,
as
we
well,
love it.
so.
We love it.
So
We love
Carly
it.
No, you don't.
unfortunately has to leave. She's going to look for Kate meanwhile.
Yes.
I think she knows
Yeah,
where Kate
I'll be there.
is. Actually.
Yeah.
Well, I can be a Kate lookalike if I try.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. In the blurry Zoom, 100%.
You look good
Thank
in
you,
royal
Carly.
blue. So
I know.
I love Carly. Please tell her that it's okay.
I do actually, by the way, guys, I do know like what's going on with Kate Middleton, but I'm not able to reveal that my secrets
Okay.
were my source.
We'll use that in the,
So
we'll
many-
clip that one.
So many others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So where were we?
Okay, back to business.
What are we doing?
I think Elisabeth, I think you're going to run the show.
we were
on your
talking
own.
about the newness of the chief customer officer role.
That's right.
And that's what we were walking through, was that the fact that this role hasn't been around for decades and it's fairly newer. So when we were asking her about what does a chief customer officer do and what is her involvement with customers, she was so eloquently walking us through that.
Yeah. That's good.
There will be
And
a quiz.
cut.
So I hope you all listened well on what the different components of the role are. And this really has to do with, in the old days, people were selling software. It was a transaction. Then they walked away, came back, 5-7 years later and did it again, rinse and repeat. Now it's very different. So with the SaaS business, with everything cloud-based, with everything, going towards platform, there is so much more that customers can do with the software rather than, using it in a standard fashion. And that's really a part of my role, to help customers think about what is they want to accomplish. What is the outcome they want to drive? Do they want to be more productive? Do they want to accelerate their development process? And we have some really fantastic examples of our customers that, are using the software to say, hey, can we, design a car instead of, multiple years, cut out 2 years of the production cycle and do it all virtually on the platform. And these are real outcomes that we are looking for to help customers dream about them and then make a reality. And that is part of what my team does, helping customers to establish that, to advise them on how they can make it happen, and then really follow up with them. We are kind of, moving in with a customer. We are the advisors to give them insights and advice on how they might do things better. And, hopefully they love it. They achieve their outcomes and they grow, we grow, everybody's happy.
I love that.
Okay, can I ask an interesting question? It's not going to be interesting at all, actually. So I would say that that's probably the goal for most organizations. But in the conversations that we have with, less mature, less established organizations, maybe new markets, customers have a very difficult time articulating how they're defining value with software providers. So this is something it sounds like you've built a nice operations around, and your team is orchestrating customers from defining value to that value realization. How have you structured such a process around that, where they are really getting their customers to clearly articulate that from day one and then managing that life cycle? Because I feel like the conversations that we have with so many leaders is we get stuck on point one, is that folks don't know how to clearly articulate it. And so then obviously, if we don't have it articulated, it's hard to deliver on it.
That is an interesting question.
You're spot on, Kristi, for that. You're spot on. And that there is actually, it's a new muscle that one has to really purposefully focus on and build on. That is what we call the value management. And it starts with that conversation at the beginning with the customer to say, why do you consider, what do you want to improve? And it could be productivity, cutting out hours. For example, in our case, we have customers that are doing building design, that, building bridges, waterways, high-rise buildings. And it matters to them if they can do that more effectively, for example, on the building design. Or they say, we want to have less waste, because it's a big issue in the building industry to say, we're designing for something and then we make mistake. And all of a sudden we have building materials that might not be the right ones. There is a lot of waste. So there is, actual measurements that are related to their business metrics to say we need to reduce material waste, or we need to increase our sustainability goals and targets. And with that, we need to be able to run simulations on, how the building might be best positioned for light exposure versus heat versus, usage of the building. So the software can help with that. But the first step, Kristi, you're exactly right, is to help the customer even to get clarity for themselves. To say, what is it we want to accomplish? Sustainability goals, productivity goals, material waste reduction, faster innovation, and then establishing to say, what is it we think we can accomplish? And the target, can be an initial target to say, maybe we want 10% productivity increase as we are doing drawings. And then, being able to measure that. And that's what the team is doing jointly with the customer from the beginning. We really quiz them. We push a little to say, what is it you really want to do? And that, and in turn, helps us to establish those value metrics that we follow up on with them on a quarterly review. The team is tracking them. And this last year, for example, for our enterprise customers, our team has been tracking customer verified value of $1 billion. And that's not our currency. That's customer currency, where they sign off and say, this is what we actually produced. And that makes not only us proud, that makes them proud. And that gives them a lot to talk about with their management chain to say, hey, we made the decision, or I made the decision to invest into that software and automation, and see, this is really the impact we have been generating, and we can do more. It's really what I would say, it's really kryptonite in the relationship with our customers to be able to articulate that and enable them to articulate it. And we feel once we do that right, they want to do more and more of that, because it really helps us to draw a straight line from buying yet another piece of software to how do I transform the business.
And that the $1 billion, sorry, I missed that. That's on a per customer basis, or that's across your portfolio?
That was aggregate for our enterprise customers. That was the value they actually signed off on. And that is typically 2 to 3.
Oh, they're signing off. They're signing off on, here's the value that you are going to deliver to me. You have a covenant with them. That you have delivered with them. Okay.
We have delivered. And that's important. We want to make it real. There's all sorts of, good intents and hopes when you start on a project, but we want to make it real. How are we tracking? What is actually being delivered? And then have the customer tell us what the actual impact is of that.
Let me ask you a question on that, just from the practical. So I'm an IC, so I'm a principal CSM. Kristi's
don't undersell yourself, John.
I'm not. I'm calling it how it is.
Okay. Aspiring CCO, right?
Aspiring. I don't know about that, but
you are.
I don't know about that, John.
Yeah, I've known Kristi long enough to know that maybe not.
Yeah,
no,
to know that maybe this isn't.
Yeah. So I actually know Tom Cassia on your team. He's a principal over at Autodesk, and I've had a number of conversations with him. He's relatively new, right? So I'm curious what the individual contributors, when you're talking about these customer values, right? This is a heavy value for you as an organization. What are the levers that these CSMs have when they're running into those conversations with customers to empower them and to increase those conversations so that they can actually get to that expected value and that outcome that they have?
Yeah, it's a great question. And that goes then into the, how do we instrumentalize that? How do we actually do it, right? So how do you get to the $1 billion? And it starts with articulating the outcome. And then on the back of that, there is a customer success plan. So there's actually a plan we do jointly with the customer to say, here's where we start. This is what we're going to do next. And part of it might be, making the software available to your team members, training them, rolling out, making sure they're using. Then there might be a set of projects where we say, okay, now let's see on how the workflows are changing. So there's some change management and some transformation on the back of that. And all alongside there is metrics and measurement. So we're coming back to the customer and saying, hey, this is actually how your teams are using it or not using it. This is actually how project A is performing over project B. And these are the areas where you might improve. So there's a lot of, driving the rollout, driving the adoption and the change management transformation, but also measuring and holding the mirror back to the customer to saying, these teams are, amazing. And, they are delivering exactly what you're hoping them to do. There is more opportunity in those. We see that these projects take longer. We see that there are design overlaps that, are avoidable. We're doing assessment on avoidable errors and things like that we then bring back to the customer, and then they can act on it. And in most cases, it's, training matters, right? Enablement matters so that people really know on what the best processes and the workflows are.
So I love all of this so much. I expect that you're relying heavily on data. Is there a balance between data and conversation? A lot of the earlier stage companies like Josh's and others maybe don't have the deep data lakes and metrics that they have for usage. So I've talked to a lot of CSMs. They're like, I just have to get all this information. They don't answer my questions. That's where data comes in, obviously. What is the balance there for you guys? How often are you updating what data your CSMs have access to so that they can come to these conclusions themselves and say, oh, I see you're using X, but not Y, and vice versa?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and data matters. I often tell my team data is your liquid gold. So you want to have lots of it, but then you need to shape it into an insight. So it needs to become currency of where you can actually do something with it. Data in itself is, not very impactful, but you need to have an insight. So we've been investing heavily in a couple of things. One, creating the data foundation. If your data foundation sucks, you're going to have a hard time to get to insights. I tell you that. So that was one thing, get the data foundation. That's a forever job. You want to continuously improve your data foundation. The second piece is to get really clear on what the insights are. And you don't have to have everything from the get-go. There's some really basic ones where you already know these will be leading indicators. We know if customers don't onboard the first 90 days of their contract, the likelihood goes down that they'll use ever. So if you don't entice them the first 90 days and help them over that hurdle and hold their hand and all that, then, the likelihood goes down that something productive will happen. So there are a couple of leading indicators that will help you dramatically. And then once you have that, then the fun goes even further because there's a little capability you might have heard of. It's called AI. Yes. I see,
I've been hearing about
surprise
this.
on everybody's faces.
This is the robot cars, right?
Yeah, but no. So AI is our latest toy and playground where we're using AI to actually have it sit on the data and the insights and to come back with recommendations for the CSMs as they are reaching out to their customer to say, these are the 1, 2, 3 conversations you should have with your customer based on what the all-knowing AI can see in the data set.
Love that. What are you using? Is this all custom baked, all this data and AI intelligence?
So we are using a combination of off the shelf, anyone, including yourself, could source. So we are using Einstein from Salesforce. We're using Copilot from Microsoft. We are using, some of the AWS insights. So we're We are testing basically the best of breed, if you wish, that's available off the shelf. And that can already do a ton. So there's already a lot out there without, us trying to write code or what have you, to be able to leverage that and to get us going.
Can I stop you right there, Elisabeth? I'm sorry, because I want to go deep on this, because I think there's probably so many people out there that want to integrate AI into their systems at a more enriched level. It sounds like you guys are doing that. So who's leading that effort when it comes to bringing together Copilot and all these other tools and services and actually making sense of it and making it actionable in your organization? Where do you even start with that at a company the size of Autodesk?
Yeah. And it's a really fun exercise. And it's not, your grandmother's tool rollout where you're like, oh, I buy a piece of AI and I'm going to roll that out to everybody. And I think you guys understand. It is much more rational experimentation. So we have defined jointly with the IT organization, shout out to our fabulous CIO, Prakash Koda. We have devised a set of pilots where we said, we have a hypothesis we want to test, where we say we want to increase productivity for the CSMs for their customer outreach and cut down the amount of time that is needed to prepare them for the initial call. And we said we want to cut down by 20%. So that's our hypothesis, our target. And then we actually have like a working team pod that includes folks from his organization that work on the technology and folks from my organization that practically try stuff out. And then we have testing criteria and we, rinse and repeat. And we do that until we get to a satisfactory result where we say, this is worthwhile working with and exposing more people to it. And then, what we do from there, we are making the circle larger. So we're including more CSM than the first initial trial CSMs, and we go from there and continue to improve. AI is nothing, you guys know that, nothing that comes, off the shelf ready and you just turn it on. It's really some rational experimentation you need to do. And it's the art and the science of it. The science is obviously, the code and the mechanics of doing that. But the art is asking the right question. And that comes back really to all of the business leaders to say, which question do I want to ask and why? And that's a worthwhile endeavor to take a moment to think about that.
Okay, let's take a moment to think about that. Tell us, like, what's that? Yeah, what's the question? What's that? I mean, Kristi has always been wondering this. What's that silver bullet question that you want to track as an insight?
Well, the answer
I have a list of more selfish questions to ask.
Yeah, I know, but this is a selfish question for me, Kristi, because you know what UpdateAI does. So I'm literally conducting UX research right now.
Yeah, but you're always selfish, Josh. That's the problem.
I know that, but this is my podcast that I invited you and John in to co-host. So that wasn't selfish. That was very giving. Ooh, I know.
Elisabeth, this is. Wow. Did you know what you were getting into when you agreed?
Dear friends, I'm deep insights here.
We're deep friends. We're yes. And say hi, Kristi. Say hi to Charlie. By the way, yeah, we can hear the barking. It's okay.
I think I got a package.
Send her our love. No, but Elisabeth, I'm actually very curious about that. Not only for selfish reasons, because there is selfishness there, but what do you want? What would you really love for your CS team to pick up from customers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the question we want to answer, and it again, in the customer success organization, we have different roles, right? We have customer success managers, we have customer technical success, aka the artist previously known as support. We have consulting, and we have renewals.
I love that so much.
So there are different questions for different teams. So for customer success, I would want to know the answer to the question of what is the best conversation that I could have with my customer right now? I want to know the answer to that question. And it's a really important question because there's only so much time I will get with a customer. And in each conversation, I want to, enlighten them about, the value they can drive. I want to share some best practices. I want to, help them to get to the next stage, but I need to know where they are right now. And, ideally, we can do that with very little prelude. and a good chance of having the right conversation very quickly in that dialogue. So that's for the CSMs. When I talk about customer technical success, we want to have the right answer quickly in the dialogue, because they typically in customer technical success, they either want proactive or reactive advice. So something is not working the way they're hoping for, or they want to do something even better and they are not entirely sure how to. So for those, I want to have answers early in the dialogue as opposed to giving them content. Today, even with your traditional chatbot, chatbot vomits content. And it may or may not address the question that the customer has. And what we are working on very actively is to get from content to answers in a conversational forum so that we can go back and forth with the customer and, have a digital way of engaging with them and have the customer arrive at an answer as opposed to a pile of content. So these are just 2 examples.
Those are great examples. Kristi, over to you.
Thanks, Josh. Okay, Elisabeth, I want to go back to something you said earlier. So you talked about the pathway to getting to that value realization. You talked about articulating the goal, creating a success plan, metric management, making sure that all of that happens. Now, I have to assume that you have a decent staffed team to go and manage through that with your customers. And probably given the investment your customers are making, staffing against that accordingly makes a ton of sense for you. But in so many organizations where we're strapped for resources and we don't have, a low leverage ratio of number of customers to CSMs, how might you think about approaching that same process at scale?
Yeah, no, Kristi, and that's a forever challenge, I think, for all of us chief customer officers, because we do have a scale of customers, so they're the very large, and
right.
They buy $100 million of contracts and what have you. So they have a team that wakes up in the morning and rallies for their success. And then there are the very small customers. That might be a small architecture bureau or a small design shop for animation or something like that. They might have like 1 subscription or 2, yet they still want to be successful. So the question is, how do I build an approach that scales from the largest customers to the smallest customers? And how does one do that? And the answer to that is technology is your friend. To basically say, we still want to ask the question to say, what do you want to accomplish? And that is really important. And we might ask that in person with the larger customers. And we will ask that when we are asking that digitally on a platform for the smaller customers. As they sign up, we are asking them, what would you like to accomplish? And in that scenario, then the ability is to say, to retrieve, we can still retrieve the data. Are they using the software? Are they not using the software? What are some of the obvious things we can detect in the usage? We can still come back with our insights and then remind them of the value and drive a motion where we can affirm the value. So we have a platform in play where we basically populate that information and then we drive for that motion. Now, do we have everything tick and tie yet? Not quite. So we're still, a work in progress as well. So this year we're doubling down on some of the more scalable motions to drive more automation, but that's the direction we are going. And we are finding that customers actually love this process. They do want to engage. They want to find out and have more clarity on how well I'm doing. And, if one would sprinkle in a little gamification, then it's even more fun.
Can I ask what your tech stack looks like to support that process?
Well, we would have to invite my colleague.
Would Carly have to come back for that? Oh, okay.
He might have to come back for that, and it will be very interesting as well from an AI perspective to share some deeper insights on how he's running the pilots. But we are using software by the name of Ecosystems. They are a value management system, and it sits on top of Salesforce, and we're having some good successes with it.
Yeah, we're in the process of looking at a value management software right now. I don't remember which one it is, but we're in the process of implementing a VMO office as well, which is a really interesting trend that I'm seeing right now, is kind of layering on top of customer success. Like, how do you actually track value in these huge global multinational organizations.
And that's exactly right. So I have in my organization a team that's called Customer Success Design, which again is a forever task. And they are thinking about, what should the experience be for an admin? They also have a team that is doing value management, plus a set of, starting this year, we invested in a number of value consultants. So they go out to the CSMs and go out to the field and say, hey, this is how you do it. This is how you structure the outcome and the value conversations. And then, they help enable them accordingly. And so far, the uptake has been really good, and the feedback has been really positive.
Elisabeth, you've mentioned a couple of things in this conversation. You've mentioned productivity and ways to enhance productivity, and you've also most recently mentioned value management and being able to validate the value that your customers are getting from your product. I want to introduce a new segment of Unchurned called This or That. Are you ready for it?
I don't know, but go ahead.
Deloitte just published a report on the state of AI in customer success and customer support. It looks like maybe you're familiar with it. Okay. So, and we know from Mark Twain and others that all statistics are lies and things like that, right? But Deloitte is a very, oh, wow. You literally have that on your bookshelf. Yeah, everybody lies. I love it. Yeah, so kindred spirits here. Two of the stats that they quote, one of them is around productivity, and it says that 33% of a CSM's time on average is spent on curating materials and driving follow-ups post-customer meetings. That's one. The other one is that 66% of technology buyers are eventually not satisfied with the value they realized from their purchase. So you got 33 and 66. So I want this or that. Which one do you buy the most, believe in the most of those two statistics based on your experience?
I think the 33, it's even understated. I think probably the share is more than 33%, but that's right. On the 66, it's like putting everybody into a mixing pot. I don't know if it's true for all the software. I would believe, based on our research, our customers are thinking more highly of us.
Well, by the way, I was not implying Autodesk. That was a generalization there. Okay, so with the 33%, that's a lot of time. 33% of time being spent on follow-ups?
Yeah, on preparing and follow-ups, both.
Yep.
Both.
Okay. Yeah. What makes you think that?
Josh, did you pay her to give that response?
No, I did not. We did not.
Was that
prep.
a sponsored response? Okay,
No,
I'm just checking.
No. Yeah, thank you for just checking, but nope, that was not.
Yeah, we can do better than just assuming, my CCO's best gut feel, but we can do better than that because we actually measured it. And part of it was really trying to weed through the plethora of data, and trying to connect data from different data sources is incredibly difficult. And then the ability now to have a more, aligned data model, have the insights, and then sitting AI on top. I'm very bullish on that, and our first pilots and first insights are super promising on that.
So you measure the time allocation of your team?
Yeah, as one does. Yeah,
as one does. What was your process for doing that? Was that did you bring in consultants?
You say that, and I'm like, they do, huh? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to my boss about something.
Yeah.
That's why you haven't gotten promoted yet, John.
That's why I haven't invited my CCO onto this podcast. Looking at you, Matt.
Yes, you say that very nonchalantly, but I don't know. Maybe there is one that does that, and that is you. But so, what was the process for doing that? Because that sounds like an interesting project.
Yeah, so typically we do want to understand, how we can do better. Also, I will say that out loud, for the CSMs, that's not their favorite part of their day, honestly. And John, you probably can attest to that when you go let me get into the data and try and make sense of it. It's not that enjoyable part. Similar, for the customer's technical success people to say, let me weed through a whole bunch of material to try and find an answer for this. It's not the most enjoyable part. So we're basically, trying to figure out, time per case. What is it allocated to? Time in the day for the CSM, how many contacts do they have? So we measure that, how many outreaches and how many conversations did they actually have? And, what's the output of those conversations? And then where's the rest of the day going towards? And to a great extent, it's the prep and then the follow-up. And what we really want to strive for is, to relieve the CSMs from a lot of the cumbersome stuff that is not the fun part of the day and give them more time in the fun part of the day. And actually, while doing that, have more contacts, more meaningful conversations with customers.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Well, I could ask more questions. I'm trying to be respectful here.
Did I break you this and that, this or that?
No. I think what would you guys?
Yeah,
we could do more of this or
Josh,
that, but I'm not sure how.
When you presented like a new segment, I expected it to be like peanut butter, crunchy or smooth,
Neither.
coffee, hot or cold. Like
she
you
said
went like
neither.
really, really deep, and then it was like, give me 4 paragraphs of an answer. So like, let's tighten up the segment.
This is why I need you both.
I do have actually a couple questions. So when we were talking earlier, let's see, I took my notes. I got to pull up my notes because I just spaced on the segment that we just went through.
BMW or Mercedes?
AI preparation for this podcast?
No, there will be a summary posted later, though. Don't worry. Okay, so adoption management. This is something that so I work in our key strategic accounts at User Testing, and we have 5,000-6,000 users within one account. I'm sure it's similar to some of the big accounts that you guys have. And when you're tracking adoption with such a wide variety, it's it is whack-a-mole. It is every analogy that you want to use of like, how do we drive engagement, right? So when you're looking at some of these things and specifically around adoption management under the CS banner, what is the thought process around the control that a CSM has, and how do you manage and maintain an individual, right? So whether it's MBOs or comp or whatever that kind of looks like to drive that adoption, which is what is going to lead to the successes in the long run.
Yeah, great, and very practical question. So adoption management, we established earlier, it's one of the leading indicators, for a great retention and as well growth, right? If customers are not using, then you're kind of not in a good place.
Yes.
It's renewals come around to say, hey, do you need more? So it is a great leading indicator. The way we are driving that is really, with the data foundation and saying, how many users have been onboarded. You asked about the leverage, and there are 2 things I would call out. One is you need a plan. You need a customer success plan. And the second part is you need a signed off customer success plan with a customer where they agree to. And with that, a counterpart you can work with. It's very difficult to impact a user on an individual basis, if they are not onboarding or not adopting. There's some in-product messaging you can do. And, there are interesting ways of, encouragement and reminding people. But when it comes down to a business has signed a contract and they want to see a return on the investment, and having a counterpart, the right person to engage with in that customer, and reflecting back to saying, we see more activity here, less activity there. Your region A is doing better than region B. On product 1, we're doing better than on product 2. Here are some recommendations. That is a very powerful place to be, to have that conversation and to drive that rollout accordingly. And then, highlighting that. And then, you can sprinkle in some product in product engagement. That's my mind, the icing on the cake, to remind people like, hey, I haven't seen you, the last couple of days. Or, hey, I see, you're struggling at the same point or with the same step. Can I recommend a video, or do you want to schedule a call to help you with that? So this is the icing on the cake, I would say.
Yeah, and we're just starting to kind of play around with some of that automation. We use Pendo for some of those behavior triggers.
Yes,
big,
indeed.
huge fan of the tool.
Yes.
But what you just said too is like, are you stuck? It's almost like let me get you out of that hole that you're in, right? Most of the time with these complex tools, people don't really know where to go.
They don't know. And, Autodesk is in the same boat. Our tools are very, very powerful. And with that, there are a lot of capabilities. And sometimes, the users are not aware of all the powerful capabilities. So there is an opportunity, to not nudge them, to remind them, and then, invite them either to a learning session or even, there's micro learnings on the spot with tiny videos, people like that, and, overcoming some of those hurdles.
Cool. And then I guess, last kind of topic, I know we talked a little bit about AI and using it as to help with data and to help recommendations for what our CSMs do. Let's cast our vision forward a little bit. Like, where do you see, or where would you like to see AI being implemented for our customers' sake and also for our business's sake?
I think AI as a general capability has a number of broad use cases, and granted, we are still going through the hype cycle.
Yes.
We all know that, right?
People still are figuring it out. Yeah,
they are still figuring it out. We haven't been at the highest point of the hype cycle. My personal belief, there is more to come, and then people start realizing on what it's good for. But there are a couple of things we have our views set on, as a company. And I will start out with saying, we have been using generative AI and generative design for the last 10 years, not as marketed as now, but we had capabilities where we would, allow our customers to do rapid simulations on what is the best position of buildings on a lot, for example, or for parts design, what is the lightest version of the part you could possibly generate for a racing bike, and having the right stability and things like that. That has been around for a while, and we are continuing to hone that. What we are doing now, just for an example, for my organization, we're using some capabilities to build out on how customers could improve their set of projects. So customers typically don't do just one project at a time, but there might be, if I'm an architecture bureau, if I'm building, have a number of building projects, or if I have a number of animation projects or whatever they might be, to say, what is the most effective way of doing that? And are there parts in this that could be fully automated? So where I have, some of the design drawings that are being done, what could be automated of that is, more repetitive, that, a machine could do, and where the human could really lean into the creative part of the work and the innovative part of the work, as opposed to, the repeatable and the mechanical part. So these are some of the things we are exploring. It's a lot of fun, I will say, and there is more to come.
I just had an image in my mind of, most products you plug into the prompt, did I spell the word potato properly? And it gives you an answer. With Autodesk, it's, what type of material should I use as the foundation for this skyscraper in the middle of New York? So there's much more
different
value,
ponds
much more
that we're
risk.
playing in.
Yeah. It's
right.
Yeah.
And it's, it is allowing to have simple answers to complex questions. That's really the future of the AI. Right now, AI gives you simple answers to simple questions. And where we want to get to is simple answers to complex questions.
Well, I love that you're looking at customer data, of course, within privacy and protection reasons for sure. But, one of my favorite things is, and the way that I envision it is just for a CSM to come in and look at his dashboard, whatever that is, and say, what should I do today? Like, I need to drive X outcome, and it'll do its magical things in the background, and Harry Potter magic will come out, and it'll say, go talk to Mark. He's going to upsell because he needs to do this thing, or he needs implementation, or he needs this. And it just gives you like intrinsic data as well as just like an auto prompt, like we're using it right now. Right. And that's a future state where everything kind of works in harmony, and there's a ton of implementations and integrations that go into that. But I do see a future where we as CSMs are empowered within our lanes to just say, like, look, I've done all of the rest of the stuff. It's Wednesday. I got a little bit of time. What should I focus on today? Right?
That's exactly right. And that is totally within reach. So these are solutions we are working on today, that are, I would say near future, where we would be able, to give that guidance and give those insights to, again, allow then the CSM to focus on what they do best, as opposed to the minutia of weeding through data and hoping for the best on, I have time to call 2 more customers. Which one should I pick? right? Instead of the randomizer, have a more targeted approach.
I love that. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, that's all my questions.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I have to say, Elisabeth, we've had many leaders on this show, and we've had other, CCOs of large companies too. And I think you get it more than most, I think you get it more than any other leader that we've spoken to on this show. It sounds like
I
you guys
took
are
7
really
pages of notes.
Wow.
7 pages, and they're all sticky. It doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
You can send her a bill, Elisabeth.
Kristi, there's an app for that.
Yeah.
I'm a pen and paper gal. Okay, leave me alone.
Okay. But Kristi, I mean, is Elisabeth not the perfect person to be on your show about female leadership?
I know, but I was going to reach out to her
C-suite?
privately. Yeah.
I know, but
I was going to send her a note.
we have
Are we
her
putting her on
now.
the
She's
spot now? I
captive.
don't want her.
Carly,
I know.
Carly's not
but
here.
What if
We
she
kicked her
says
out so that you'd be able to
no?
have that opportunity. I mean, Elisabeth,
I'll
she's
have my
very
people
nice.
call
She
your
wouldn't say
people.
no. She's gonna, yeah. If she
I
punts you,
think Carly would be in favor once she's done her hair. She would be in favor.
That was one of, other than the insights that you added into this, her coming on red faced.
Oh my gosh, I know. I felt she was so
my favorite
embarrassed.
thing.
amazing.
It wasn't necessary for her to be so
lunch.
embarrassed either. We welcomed her.
Yeah, no, but she is the most fabulous, fantastic communications leader. I'm very, very happy that she's working with me.
No, it's good because she was embarrassed because she thought that we are a serious program. And had she not thought, if she had known the truth, she wouldn't have allowed you on this show. So the fact that she was embarrassed, right? That's what led you here today, is that you thought you were coming into something serious minded. That being said, we are the top show for customer success.
One of the things that I always ask at the
Especially
beginning.
after this episode.
Oh,
right?
yeah. After
Obviously.
100%.
I always want to know if our guests knew what they were getting into when they agreed to this show. And so far, I think we're pretty much every single person has said, no, I had no idea what to expect. So did you listen to any other episodes?
Maybe I'm briefing my guests too much and there's no element of surprise. Maybe I'm doing too much up front. Maybe I should just drop a just book calendar time here.
I love it.
Then you would get less declines. Huh?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Elisabeth. Truly, truly appreciate it. And the work that you're doing is incredible. Like I said, I do know a few folks on your team, and they really love what you're doing over there. And I cannot wait to see where you take the rest of this year. And we hope to hear from you again.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of unexpected fun. So thank you much for it.
Perfect.
We aim to please. Thank you, Elisabeth. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you much.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.